So what we're going to do is we're going to start off talking about Elastic Audio right now. This is connected to our video that we just did that is about TC Etool and Tix mode and samples mode and all that stuff. So if you're just catching up with the videos right now, you need to go back and watch those as well to make sense of all this stuff. So basically, we had the TC Etool, and the TC Etool worked really well, but it was just on complete clips. What they did, and this came around in about 2008, I guess, was Pro Tools finally made Elastic Audio. And Elastic Audio, what it allows you to do is make timing adjustments to audio within the clips themselves. So you no longer had to take the clips and move them around. You can actually do the moving of audio inside of the clips. So for example, if I've got my counting here, I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off. Let's go ahead and get back to my original counting like this. And I'm going to go ahead and make this I'm going to duplicate this track, but I'm not going to duplicate the alternate playlist because I don't want all the extra playlists going on. So I'm going to turn that off, click it right here, and I'm going to go ahead and hide and make this one inactive. Now down here, I'm going to turn on my Elastic Audio, but actually first, I'm going to make this all one big long clip. And you can see that when I make this one big long clip, what has happened? Well, everything has gotten a lot slower because our original tempo was not 120. Our original tempo was 90 BPM. So now when I have things like separated out into individual clips like this, those clips had followed my tempo because of the Tix mode. But if I take this and make it into one big long clip, we can see that everything is kind of slower now. If you want to hear what that sounds like, let's go ahead and play that with our drum loop here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, you can hear it's 5, the click track. 6. Right, so it's super slow. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna make it fit the new tempo using Elastic Audio. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this fit the new tempo using Elastic Audio. So how do we do that? Well, in order to use Elastic Audio, first of all, we have to turn on an Elastic Audio plugin. And this is like a weird way to think about it. It's hard for me to wrap my head around this because, I mean, I have done it, but I'm used to Ableton Live. In Ableton Live, warp mode is applied to individual clips. With Pro Tools, and same thing with Logic, the Elastic Audio, basically their version of warp mode, is applied to the entire track, and Pro Tools looks at it like a plugin. I don't really look at it like a plugin. I think it's weird to think of it like that because it's actually changing the audio. They look at it like a plugin, whatever. They can do what they want. It's their program, right? So we click on this part right down here, and we can put this into one of our different modes. I'm going to go ahead and put it into polyphonic mode. And if you want to, what it does is it reads the audio that's on the track and it analyzes it and it changes it into this Elastic Audio mode. You can actually change the Elastic Audio mode here. And we're going to talk about what all these different ones mean in just a second. But let's use polyphonic mode. And then once I've got this Elastic Audio turned on, you'll notice that over here, 2 more views become eligible. So if I go up here to this one, see how analysis and warp are not usable, they're grayed out? Well, if I go down here with Elastic Audio turned on, I can now use analysis and warp. So let's take a look at what these are. Analysis, what it does is it analyzes my waveform. So I'm gonna make these small here because we don't need them to be too big. I'm gonna make this one bigger, jumbo. And you can see all these little lines in here. These are what Pro Tools thinks is the transients in here. Now the reason why it's got so many in here is just because there's a lot of little pops and clicks in the audio file. So what I can do is I can actually right click on this and go to Elastic Properties, and I can turn my event sensitivity down. And once I do that, it'll only give me event sensitivity on my counting, which is great. That's what I want. I'm actually going to get rid of this one by double clicking it. So now I have elastic audio stuff based on my individual talking. Now what I want to do is I want to move these around so they're at the beginnings of the words. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want the beginnings of my words to be the elastic audio parts. I can double click to add one in like that. And the ones that are here, I can move them around like this. Now you'll notice that nothing is moving within the counting. The counting is staying the same. That's because we are still in analysis mode. We are not in warp mode. Warp mode is where you actually make changes to the audio. Analysis mode, you actually can't change the audio at all. You can't cut the clips. You can't do any of that stuff. All you can do is move these little warp markers around. Or I should say, not warp markers, sorry, transient markers. So I'm just going to move these around. Does this take a while? Yes. Is it boring? Yes. But the result can be amazing. And see how I'm just going to go in here. I'm zooming in. Here, let's zoom in and just see. Okay, cool. So the thing is, Pro Tools is actually really good at finding the beginnings of your audio stuff. It's really, really good at that kind of stuff. Here, I can't even like adjust these like this. If I want to adjust my waveform at all, which I do, I don't need that end part there. I have to actually go back to waveform, and then I can make the adjustment there. Whoops, whoa. Yeah, the beginning is fine. Okay, so now we're going to go into warp mode, and warp mode is where I can actually make changes to things. So I want these to be all every other beat. So first thing I'm going to do is grab this first one here. When I grab the first one, this is an interesting phenomenon that happens. All the other ones are actually going to move according to that first one as well. See how they all kind of telescope in like that? And so actually, I can get them, for the most part, to kind of come in pretty closely. They're not all 100% perfect. Zoom in over here. But they're pretty good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this one in. Lock it in right there like that. Now, if I wanted to, I can grab the end one over here and drag that over and set that in the right place. And it looks like all the other ones are going to come in pretty well. So I'm going to lock that one in. And let's just go to the end over here. Scroll over. 12. 12. 12. Yep. Cool. And these all look pretty good. And that's all we really have to do. I could have done it with just the last one there. Why did my light turn off again? I could have done it with just the last one there. But I wanted to show you how all this stuff kind of works. Now, if I listen to this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2. Awesome. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that last 9 there because we don't really need it. We're just counting to 8. So I'm just going to cut this and delete this over here. Actually, yeah, okay. So now we've just got the 8 here, like that. And so analysis shows me where my transient markers are. Basically, it's like where if you want to put a warp marker type of thing. And then warp mode is where I'm actually putting my warp markers in. Now the warp marker in Elastic Audio, same thing with warp in Ableton Live and Flex in Logic. The warp markers in all of these are basically like locking in that part of the audio to that part of the grid. Okay, so over here, if I lock this one in by double clicking it, now all of these, I can move them around, but this one over here on the side and this one on this side are not going to move. Watch what happens. See that? I can move them around, and I could go through and I could move all of these around. If I click it, I'm just going to click each one of these. It's going to put a warp marker in for that one there. And now I can go ahead and move these around. And it's going to move them. Here you go. Now let's listen to that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1. Now that's weird sounding because it's speeding things up and slowing them down according to where I move these. So let's go ahead and undo this. Let's use a different type of marker here. Let's use rhythmic mode. Rhythmic mode acts fundamentally differently. So what I can do is I can move it around, and we'll explain about how these all act in a little bit. Just gonna move these around like this. You can see it still looks the same, but let's listen to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right? It acts differently, but it's still not doing exactly what I want it to do. I mean, in reality, it sounds fine because I just wanted to count like straight ahead. If I wanted to move it around like I was doing, I would probably just chop this up and use the clips and stuff like that. But you can see what all you can do. If I want to get rid of these warp markers, I can just highlight them and hit delete. And there we go. I got rid of them. If I want to move things over like this, put one there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, so you can see how that's all moving around like that because I'm adjusting a warp marker here. I'm just clicking and dragging. Once you have warp markers on either side of the audio, anything you move in the middle is going to automatically get a warp marker. Okay, so that's the counting there. Let's go ahead and take a look at this drum loop. Let's go ahead and drag the original drum loop onto here. So here's my original drum loop. I'm going to go ahead and drag the original one on. And just like we did before, I'm going to go ahead and cut it at the 4th, 5th bar. So let's go ahead and listen to this. I think it's over here somewhere. Let's listen. 1, 2. Okay, hold on a second. I'll just listen and count. Start from here though. Right, so that downbeat there is where I want to make the cut. Whoops, is that the right place? That's a little bit early. There we go. That's where I want to make the cut. There we go. Delete this. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Elastic Audio to do what I did before. Instead of using TCE, I'm going to use Elastic Audio. So first things first, I'm going to turn on my Elastic Audio, put it into rhythmic mode because it's a drum loop. And then I'm going to use my TCE tool to drag it over. Now you might be saying, wait, hold on a second. Tony, I thought you said you weren't going to use TCE. I'm not using TCE. I'm using the TCE tool because when you have Elastic Audio turned on, it uses Elastic Audio to make any kind of TCE adjustments. So that's what we're doing there. Now, if I go in here and I go to analysis mode, I can see it's got drum hits. It's got little analysis marks where my drum hits are. I'm going to right click in this and bring up my elastic properties and pull down my sensitivity because I don't want it to have any transient markers where there's no drum hit. And you can see all I had to do was put it down to 98% there, and it worked fine. So I can go over here, and there might be a couple extra ones. Yeah, there's one in here right here. So let's go ahead, or like the couple, but let me just turn this down a little bit more. There we go. Now we should be good. This is something that I really wish that Ableton Live had, was this event sensitivity number here. It doesn't have that in Ableton Live. It does have it in the simpler, but it doesn't have it in regular mode. So it's kind of weird that it doesn't have it. I thought they would have put it in by now, but they haven't. Okay, so now I've got this. Now what I can do is I can actually use this to move my beats and stuff around. Let's go ahead and listen to it real quick. To me, that sounds so much better than what we were working with before. I didn't keep it. Here, let's go ahead. Let's make a duplicate of this. Another, duplicate. Not a duplicate, but let's make a different track here. And we'll call this one Beat Loop TCE. And this one is going to be called Beat Loop Elastic Audio, EA. Let me grab my TCE one, the time shift one here. Oh, not that one, this one here. Yeah, there we go. So here's the time, there's the TCE one. Let's listen to this TCE one. You can hear the difference. Let's listen to the Elastic Audio one. Right, it's what I'm hearing is in the snap of the snare drum. The snap of the snare drum on the TCE one is like longer. It's a little bit more spread, and it's more of a crack on the Elastic Audio one. So I really like the Elastic Audio one better, and that's because of how rhythmic mode works. And on my computer, rhythmic mode's working fine. On your computer, Elastic Audio does have a rhythmic mode. Remember, you can go up here to Setup, Preferences, Processing, and in here you can change it, but mine is acting wonky. So mine, every time I change it to, drums polyphonic or drums rhythmic, it changes right back to stereo polyphonic, which is less than optimal. All right, so we've got this in here. Now, if I wanted to go in, I'm gonna go ahead and hide and make you inactive. If I wanted to go in here and adjust any of these rhythms in here, I can do this now. I can zoom in, and let's say I can put one right here. Oops, wait, hold on a second. Go into warp mode here, and just double click, and it's going to lock that one in place. I'm going to double click here and put one, and now these two in here are going to lock into the grid. I don't have to double click, I can just move them around. So let's listen to that. Cool, right? Sounds pretty good. Let me change this up to 8th notes. Put one in right here. Cool. And you can see how I go ahead and I'm adjusting my audio. Now, if I go ahead and look at this in wave mode, we can't see the any kind of things like that have been done to it except for this little symbol right over here. This little symbol means that I have adjusted this somehow with Elastic Audio. We can't actually see the analysis mode or anything like that in here, but we can see that we've adjusted it somehow in here. Okay, that's how you can view that and decide, oh, okay, I've changed that somehow, is by looking at this over here. Cool, let's listen to all this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. 4. Awesome. Cool. I hope slaps. Nice. Yeah, it sure does. I hope that y'all are as excited about this as I am, especially if you're a producer, because this stuff is super, super cool. And this is like a really good reason to use Pro Tools for your productions, because it just sounds really great in here once you get past the learning curve of using it in your productions. If you're coming from FL Studio or even Ableton Live, it's very different to use Pro Tools. I actually use Ableton Live for all my productions these days. I don't really use Pro Tools for my productions. That's just because I like the workflow of Ableton Live, but I do have friends who use Pro Tools for their productions for like house music and stuff like that. So definitely keep that up. Let's go ahead and look at the notes over here and look at the different types of Elastic Audio modes. Okay, you've got polyphonic, which is best for full songs. Then you've got rhythmic mode. This is good for drums, rhythmic instruments, detached melodic instruments, stuff like that. So rhythmic mode, like the obvious choice, it's the obvious choice for drums. But it's also something you can use really well for like bass lines and things like that. So let's go over here. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to go ahead and make a new track. We're going to make an instrument track. I'm going to make a little, I don't know, a little detached bass line. And I'm going to use Vacuum that comes with Pro Tools. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to here. Let's go ahead and put a little filter on that, like this, and a little envelope. There you go. Make more on the envelope. Cool. Okay, so, and then this one. 1, 2. What pitch is that? Boom. It's like a G, right? Okay, it's like a G. We'll call it a G. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to load in, I'm going to make a new little MIDI clip here. And I'm going to just make a rhythmic part. Put one there. One there. And it's just going to be keep it the same note, just to make it easy. Okay, and we're just going to call that done. And let's... Awesome. Duplicate that a couple times. And I'm going to make this into a... I'm going to go ahead and make this into audio. So, go ahead and commit this. Okay. Audio, boom. So we've got this little thing here. It's not actually a bass. I don't know why I call it bass. It's called synth. There we go. Okay. Now, if I want to go ahead and move this around, the best thing for this, if I want to take this and make it elastic audio, the best thing is not polyphonic, rhythmic, polyphonic, monophonic, or varispeed. The best one would be rhythmic mode. Even though it's not drums, everything is detached. You see how this stuff is all detached in here. So we're gonna talk about this here in just a second, but I'm just gonna leave this here. But just keep in mind, this here is the best thing for this is rhythmic mode, which is kind of weird, right? Yeah, it is kind of weird, but trust me, the way it works, the reason why it works is because of how rhythmic mode works, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. Next is monophonic, solo, non-chord instruments. I don't really use monophonic very much at all. I don't think it sounds good for anything, so I don't use it for anything. Varispeed is actually the same as a record player or a sampler. Faster rhythms equal, making it go faster means it goes up. Making it slower, slow down, means it goes lower in pitch, just like it would with a sampler or a record player. They put this in here for special effects and to get that kind of record player sampler sound. My advice is it works really, it's cool to try things out for drums and stuff, but anything that's got a pitch to it, you don't want to use it for that pitch. Okay, so in here, analysis, the different track modes is analysis and warp are the two that we need to pay attention to. Analysis shows the transients and lets you add or subtract the transient lanes. You cannot edit the audio in this view at all. Warp mode allows you to edit the audio timing. You can add, subtract, and edit the warp markers. And a warp marker looks like this. It looks like a little stick with a base to it. An anchor that locks the audio into a certain time or a certain grid point. So if we go in here and we look at my synth part, I got it in rhythmic mode. Let's go look at analysis mode. So in here, we can see I just have transient marks on each of my little synth hits. Really clean because it's digital, so it's very, very clean. Remember, my voice had all sorts of stuff going on with it in the original time we did it. Here, let me just show you that analysis. Remember, oops. If we go to Elastic Properties and I put this back up to 100%, see, it's got all sorts of stuff. And the reason why it's got all sorts of stuff is because there's little clicks and pops and things in there that I didn't really notice were in there because it's analog. There's just some abnormalities going on in there, and that just happens. So we don't have to use the sensitivity for this one at all because there's nothing to desensitize it to. Okay, I'm going to put that back into waveform mode. Now, if I go down here, actually, before I do that, I can move this around, whatever. You can't move it past the ones on either side. I can also insert a new one by just double clicking wherever I want there to be a new one. And that's pretty much it with analysis mode. Really, you just want to go in there and you just want to just make sure that it's actually the right thing. Like, that's really what analysis mode is for, to make sure that the transients are where they should be. Then we've got warp mode here, and warp mode's where we actually make changes. So if we listen to this, let's listen to it. Right, so we got that in there. Let's go ahead and make some changes to these. So what I want to do is I want to change this one here. Now, what I can do is I can lock in this one on the side. Zoom in here so you can see it better. I can lock in on this one on this side, and now this one can be moved around. Right, I could do the same thing with this one over here. Double click, and move it. Right? The problem is with that is that it's a lot of clicks. I have to click on the left, I have to click on the right, and then I can move it around. Well, I don't want to click on the left and the right. All I want to do is take this one and grab it and move it. Well, I can do that by holding down my Shift key, and see how this turns into a little TIE Fighter thing. I don't know what they call it. I just call it my little TIE Fighter thing right there. And now when I click, it automatically puts warp markers on either side, and I drag it over. So it's all done with one keystroke there. Super, super easy. I can move this one over, same thing. Just hold down Shift and put it in there. Okay, move that one over. Cool. Okay, so now one thing you can't do is I cannot copy and paste audio with this. If I want to copy and paste audio, because like let's say I want to put another one in here, I have to go over here to my waveform, and let's grab like this one here and drag it over into here. So I can do it with audio, but I like with my waveform, but I can't because I'm moving clips around, but I can't do it inside of Elastic Audio. Once I do this though, everything's just on the track here. I can see that it's a separate clip by clicking on it, but it's not actually like, it's just showing me, okay, everything's just working how it is. So if I listen to this, cool. All right, there we go. So that's how you can, that's like the basics of moving things around with this. Now, let's go over here to this. Just keep in mind, this disconnects the pitch from the speed of the clip. You can manipulate the timing, and you can also manipulate the pitch. Here's how we can manipulate the pitch. Is I go in here and let's put this back into waveform. And let's say I want this one here to be a higher pitch. Well, I'm gonna click it like this. I select it with my selector tool and hit Command E to make it into its own little clip. And I'm gonna right click on this and select Elastic Properties. And when I select Elastic Properties, now it gives me this one over here, and I can change the pitch right here, pitch shift. And let's put it up 3 semitones. So now, I'm gonna do the same thing with this one here. Cut that out. Elastic Properties window is still open, so let's put that at 4. Put it up 5. And we can go over here and we can move more of these around. I'm just gonna cut these out. Put this one down a couple of semitones and put this one here up a couple semitones. Now, in order for you to know what this is doing, you have to know something about how music theory works and what semitones are and stuff like that. Right. And let's put this up an octave. Right? Same thing with the timing of stuff. If you move the pitch away too far from the original pitch, it's going to start to sound weird. The reason why none of these sound super weird is because I'm using, I'm going up mostly and not really down, and down is just like a whole step, and up, I went up an octave, and you can hear that it played it really fast, but it doesn't sound super weird like that. It just sounds a little bit different. So that's how you can do that. This is something that people don't generally do with Pro Tools. I see more people using pitch shift things in Ableton Live because this Elastic Properties menu is a little bit hidden in Pro Tools. It's not something that's like super easy to get to. It's easy to get to if you know where it is. All right, so we got that there. If I like this and I want to print this into audio, what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and make a duplicate of this playlist. And I'm going to just go ahead and hit Option Shift 3. Option Shift 3 is consolidate. It's going to turn it into a new audio file. And I'm going to go back to my original one here, and I'm going to get rid of all of the, let's turn on the elastic power. Let's put this into 0. So there's no pitch shifting at all. Cool. All right. So that's what we can do with all this stuff. That's like kind of some basic things we can do with these things. All right. So let's go in here and take a look at these different algorithms here. You got polyphonic, rhythmic, and monophonic, and then you've also got vari-speed. Polyphonic is best all around. When in doubt, just use polyphonic. Specifically, it's good for full songs. Rhythmic mode is good for any clip that has disconnected audio, which is non-legato. Like I just showed you, you can use it for beats, but you can also use it for drums, bass. You can also use it for bass, rhythm, piano, guitars, synthesizers, stuff like that. Anything that's not connected all together. Monophonic is supposedly good for non-chord instruments, but Tony doesn't like it. That's me. I'm Tony. I don't like it. I'm not a huge fan. Vari-speed is similar to a record player or a sampler, and the speed affects the pitch. So if I go slower, it's going to be a lower pitch. If I go faster, it's going to be a higher pitch. It's really good for special effects or drum beats. So for example, if we go in here and I cut this one right here, let's put this into vari-speed. And let's go ahead and do like a little tempo change here. So I'm going to go here. And we're going to select this. We're going to go from here to here. We're going to make it slow down. So we're going to open this up. Just make it slow down like right from here to, can we do that right here? Come on. No, hold on a second. Here, I'm going to do it up here. My event time operations, tempo operations. Let's do a linear slowdown. Oh my goodness, I just got slapped with people who want us to be famous. Ban. Snowball. Ban. Come on. Ban. I don't need a reason, just ban them. I said ban. There we go. Boom. All right. So in here, linear, let's get it starting at 120 and let's have it slow down to, I don't know, 20. So check this out. Slow it way down and watch what happens here. I want to get that in the beginning. I'm gonna take this. Right, it sounds super, super weird. Let's maybe not go all the way down to 20. Let's go down to like 860. Okay, so I'm gonna go back up here to my tempo and linear, and we're gonna change this to 20, 60, what did I say, 60, right? So that's like half speed, there we go. Let's listen to it. Right, super, super weird sounding because the tempo is shifting down. I also did do some warping stuff in here. Let's go ahead and get rid of these warps so you can hear it just straight up. Let's go ahead and put this right here. Right, awesome. So it sounds kind of cool. It's like a record player slowing down, but it's not like, because of this pitch, all the pitches would kind of clash with each other. So you want to, yeah, it's kind of cool. It's not something you're going to use all the time, but there it is, an idea for you. Let me get rid of this. So we go, okay, cool. All right. No more tempo changes right now. Awesome. Okay. So just a couple notes real quick. Polyphonic sounds the best. It is the most processor intensive, but it's the best all around. In general, when in doubt, use polyphonic. Cool. Vari-speed is the least processor intensive, but really only use it for special effects type of stuff. It doesn't sound natural. And monophonic, avoid it if you can. Try it if you need to conserve CPU. See what it sounds like for you. If you like it, great, but I don't love it. Okay, now let's talk about rhythmic mode here for a second and why it works the way it does. Rhythmic mode, like I said, it's obviously good for drum beats and stuff like that. It's called rhythmic mode. It's good for rhythms, but you got to remember that rhythm instruments are not just drums. The rhythm section of a jazz ensemble is the drums, the bass, and the piano. And also there's a thing called rhythm guitar. The rhythm guitar is the same as a normal guitar, but instead of playing solos and stuff like that, it's playing mostly rhythms. So these rhythms the audio is like usually separated out. It's not usually like long audio connected. It's separated stuff out. What rhythmic mode does is it cuts up the audio according to the transients and treats each part as its own separate sample. So if we look at this little drawing right here, I've got a drum beat, boom, bap, right? This part here, it's going to cut them according to the samples and according to this the transients here, the transients of these little red lines. And you have these red boxes, which represents the audio here. With this one, let's say it's got a cymbal smash on top, right? Boom, bap, with a on top. So these boxes are going to be longer because you got this one sample that's going over everything. But it's still going to cut up according to the transients because those transients are still in there. So if we look at what this would look like, these here, if I slowed it down to half speed, these here are still going to be, they're still going to sound exactly the same because the boxes are not, they're exactly the same. It's just they're spread out. But this second bar here, it's going to sound like psh, 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 like that. It's going to have gaps in the audio because that audio psh, is being affected by those transients right here. So you, like, let me just show you over here. If I have the synth line, what's a good way to show this? Let's do this. Let's do, here, let's play this one. This one's a pretty good example. 1, 2. So I'm gonna, let's slow this way down. I'm gonna just keep this loop going here. I'm gonna slow it down to like half speed. Whoops, put this back into rhythmic mode. There we go. Now, and I'm gonna make a change here. Here we go. I click on the name of it, and it brings me here to my decay rate. I'm gonna change this decay rate. Hear how it's like putting gaps between the audio? But the audio itself sounds perfect. Well, the reason why it's doing that is because it's chopping these up where the warp markers are, where the analysis mode is. Here, these transients. See the transients are right here? Well, this is how it's being chopped up as well. Listen to it. If I put this back to 50%, let's speed this back up to its normal tempo. And I'm going to put this back down to like less than 10%. Speed this back up to its normal tempo. Actually, the normal tempo for this one is 126, right? That sounds normal. If I speed it up from there, it's going to sound fine. 135. That sounds fine. Let's slow it down to 126 again, its normal tempo. And then let's go down slower from here. 120. See how you can still hear the gap in the middle there? It's because I've put my decay rate down. The decay rate is like how sustained the parts between the gaps are, between these little samples. If I slow this down even more, let's go to 100. And the reason why it sounds like that is because it's not sustaining the audio through it at all. So it's really just keeping the original length of each section, and then it's stopping after that length, the end of the length is reached. And that's what it's doing. That's really what's going on here. All right, cool. So that's pretty much the end of Elastic Audio here. Just real quick, I just want to review something we talked about a second ago, or a little bit ago. When a track has Elastic Audio applied, the TCE tool warps the audio. It does not create a new audio file on your hard drive. So just keep that in mind. The TCE tool usually creates a new audio file on your hard drive, but if you've got the track in Elastic Audio mode, it does not work like that. And then here's some notes on the warp view symbols. This one looks like this. Here's where we're talking about here. If I go into warp mode, okay, see this symbol here? That's what we're looking at here. The arrows with the little bracket on the side is what we call telescoping mode. It lengthens or shortens the audio like a telescope or an accordion, like the whole thing. If you grab one warp marker, it's going to move the whole audio. So if I grab this and move it in like this, see how it just moved the whole audio? Like that. That's what telescoping mode does. If you want to right anchor the telescoping mode, it's you hold Option down. So if I don't have an anchor, if I don't have this anchor over here, I have an anchor over here already. So it's not going to let me do it. Hold on. Oh yeah, it's not going to let me do it. It's like the beginning. But if you could anchor the right hand side, I've never used it, so I'm not going to care too much about it right now. And if you hold Shift, you get the TIE Fighter looking thing, and it locks the transients on either side of the selected transient. So that's like this. If I go in here, I hold down my Shift key, and it just moves that one on, that puts the one on either side and just moves the one in the middle. So that's really what we're looking at here with Elastic Audio. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video right now.